The messenger. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the Earth Defense Station Arcturus, watching the crystalline ships of the Meridian Embassy approach. Their vessels resembled massive geometric snowflakes, refracting the distant starlight in patterns that still took her breath away, even after 15 years of diplomatic service. "They're early," Lieutenant Park muttered beside her, checking his holographic display. "The Meridians are never early." Sarah's hand instinctively moved to the neural implant at the base of her skull, standard issue for all diplomatic officers. Something felt off. The Meridians were notorious for their precise timing, viewing early arrival as disrespectful as being late. It suggested rushing, impulsiveness, traits their species despised. "Status of their diplomatic beacon?" she asked, keeping her voice steady. "Broadcasting proper credentials, Commander." But Park's fingers danced across the holographic interface. "Their energy signature is fluctuating. Could be damage to their primary core." The lead ship, nearly 2 kilometers in length, began its docking sequence. Sarah noticed its movements were slightly erratic, nothing like the usual graceful precision of Meridian vessels. She opened a secure channel to station security. "This is Commander Chen. I want a full tactical team standing by in Docking Bay 7. Passive scanners only. Make it look like a standard honor guard." "Acknowledged, Commander. Teams deploying now." As Sarah made her way to the docking bay, her mind raced through possibilities. The Meridian Empire had been humanity's strongest ally in the Perseus Arm for over 2 decades. Their advanced technology and humanity's rapid adaptation capabilities had created a partnership that kept more aggressive species at bay. The docking bay's massive doors parted with a hydraulic hiss. Sarah positioned herself at the head of the honor guard, wearing her dress uniform adorned with the symbols of both Earth and Meridian diplomatic corps. The crystalline ship's docking tube extended, its transparent walls rippling like liquid glass. A single figure emerged, Ambassador Lazara, her crystalline form refracting light in subtle rainbow patterns. But something was wrong. The usually pristine facets of her form were cracked in places, and her movements lacked their characteristic fluid grace. "Ambassador." Sarah stepped forward, offering the traditional greeting gesture. "We weren't expecting." "Commander Chen." Lazara's voice was strained, her universal translator crackling with interference. "I invoke emergency protocol Sigma-9. The Empire has fallen." Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. Sigma-9 was the highest level of emergency diplomatic protocol, established after the Proxima War. It had never been invoked. "The Swarm?" Sarah asked, referring to the ancient enemy that both humanity and the Meridians had fought centuries ago. "No." Lazara's form flickered, revealing more damage. "Our own people. The purest faction. They've taken control. The royal family is dead. Those of us who opposed them." She stumbled, her crystalline form dimming. Sarah rushed forward, gesturing for medical support. "Get me a quantum stabilization field. Now." "Commander." Lazara grasped Sarah's arm, her touch burning cold through the uniform. "I carry data, coordinates. There are others, loyalists, hidden throughout the sector. The purists. They believe in isolation, in racial purity. They'll destroy everything we've built together. You must." The ambassador's form began to crack, lines of light spreading across her surface. "Lazara, hold on. We have stabilization fields coming." "No time." The ambassador pressed a crystalline data core into Sarah's hand. "Find them. Unite them. The coordinates, encrypted with your genetic key." "I'm sorry. I had to be sure." Her voice faded as more cracks appeared. "Trust no one. Not even our own." The ambassador's form shattered in a brilliant display of light, leaving Sarah holding the data core as alarms blared throughout the station. In the distance, she could hear the sounds of weapons fire. "Security breach in sections 12 through 15. Park's voice came through her comm. "Multiple hostile contacts. They're They're Meridian Special Forces. Sarah clutched the data core, mind racing. The honor guard was already moving into defensive positions as the sound of combat grew closer. Lieutenant Park, initiate station lockdown. Authorization Chen Alpha 7. And get me a secure channel to Earth Command. Priority Black. As she ran toward the command center, Sarah realized the weight of what had just happened. The Meridian Empire, humanity's greatest ally, had just collapsed, and somehow she had become the keeper of its last hope. The station shook with another explosion. Through the viewport, she could see more crystalline ships emerging from hyperspace, their forms darker, more angular than traditional Meridian vessels. The purists had followed Lazara. Sarah reached the command center as the first impact struck the station's shields. She had thousands of lives to protect, a mysterious data core that could change the fate of two civilizations, and no idea who she could trust. She took a deep breath and began issuing orders. The next few hours would determine not just her fate, but potentially the future of human-Meridian relations. And somewhere out there, scattered across the sector, others were waiting, if she could reach them in time. The station shuddered again as Sarah interfaced the data core with her neural implant. As the encrypted data began flowing into her mind, she realized that this was just the beginning. The real challenge would be finding these loyalists while staying ahead of the purists who would stop at nothing to hunt them down. And behind it all, one question burned in her mind. Why had Lazara chosen her? The answer, she suspected, would either save them all or lead them to destruction. The battle for the future of two civilizations had begun, and Sarah Chen was now at its heart, whether she was ready or not. Shattered light. The Meridian data core burned in Sarah's mind like frozen fire. As her stolen shuttle dropped out of hyperspace near the Centauri mining outpost, fragments of Ambassador Lazara's memories flickered through her consciousness. Crystal gardens that sang in starlight, vast libraries of living data, and secrets that made her breath catch. Identity verified. The outpost's automated system chirped. Welcome to New Era's mining colony, Commander Chen. Sarah guided the shuttle into the docking bay, trying to ignore the persistent headache from integrating alien data into her neural implant. After the attack on Arcturus Station 3 days ago, she barely escaped with a handful of loyal crew members. Lieutenant Park sat beside her, monitoring communications. Still clean, he reported. No pursuit signatures. The mining colony was a sprawling complex of interconnected habitats and processing facilities, carved into a metallic asteroid. Perfect for hiding. And, according to Lazara's data, home to one of the surviving Meridian loyalists. Any word from Earth Command? Sarah asked, powering down the shuttle systems. Park shook his head. All channels are chaos. Reports of Meridian purist attacks across 3 sectors. They're targeting any installation with known Meridian presence. Sarah accessed the data core again, searching for information about their contact. The neural interface translated Meridian thought patterns into something her human mind could comprehend, but it was like trying to read a book through frosted glass. Their name is Vexlor, she said finally. They're a Meridian scientist, specialized in human Meridian biological compatibility studies. Park raised an eyebrow. Biological compatibility. Why would they study that? Before Sarah could answer, an alert flashed across their screens. 3 ships had just emerged from hyperspace. Angular, crystalline vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Purists, Sarah hissed. They must have tracked us through the last jump. She opened a secure channel to the mining colony. This is Commander Chen, Earth Diplomatic Corps. Emergency Protocol Sigma 9. I need to speak with Vexlor immediately. There was a long pause before a response came, not in words, but in pulses of light that her neural implant translated into meaning. Come quickly. The darkness spreads. The docking tube extended, and Sarah led her small team into the colony. They were met by a maintenance bot that guided them through service tunnels, away from the main corridors. Commander, Park whispered, checking his tactical display. "The Purist ships are requesting emergency docking clearance, claiming to be pursuing terrorists." The maintenance bot led them to what appeared to be an abandoned processing chamber. As the doors sealed behind them, the air shimmered, and a meridian form materialized. Their crystalline structure more organic than traditional meridian architecture, with swirling patterns that reminded Sarah of DNA helices. "I am Vexlor," the meridian's thoughts translated in Sarah's mind. "And you carry Lazara's burden." Sarah stepped forward. "The ambassador said you could help us understand what's happening." "Why the Purists?" "No time," Vexlor interrupted, their form pulsing with urgent light. "They are here because of what we discovered, what they fear." The scientist moved to a hidden panel, revealing a chamber that glowed with soft, bioluminescent light. Inside, suspended in a crystalline matrix, was something impossible: a human child with faint traces of meridian crystal patterns beneath their skin. "Impossible," Park breathed. "No," Vexlor's thoughts carried weight. "Inevitable. We discovered it decades ago. Our species are compatible at a quantum level. Given time, we could merge, evolve into something greater than either race alone." The Purists. They saw our research as corruption, heresy against their vision of meridian purity. The colony shuddered as the Purist ships began their attack. Warning klaxons blared throughout the facility. "They're cutting through the outer defenses," Park reported. Vexlor moved to the chamber's controls. "This child is hope, proof that our people's destiny lies together. The first of many. There are others like her, hidden throughout human and meridian space. The coordinates are in Lazara's core." Sarah's neural implant buzzed as new data streamed in: locations, security protocols, names of both human and meridian conspirators who had worked to protect this secret. "Why tell me this now?" Sarah asked as another impact rocked the colony. "Because," Vexlor's form began to shift, revealing hidden facets. "I am also like them. My father was human. We are living proof that our species can do more than merely coexist. We can become something new." The door to the chamber buckled as Purist energy weapons began cutting through. Sarah drew her particle pistol, positioning herself between the door and the child's stasis chamber. "Park, begin emergency evacuation protocols. Get the child to the shuttle." She turned to Vexlor. "I need everything you know about Purist tactics, weaknesses, anything that can help us survive." "Better." Vexlor moved to a control panel. "I can give you the power to fight them directly." They extended a crystalline tendril toward Sarah's neural implant. "Your ambassador-grade interface can handle meridian combat protocols. But the integration, it will change you." Another explosion rocked the chamber. Through the gaps in the door, Sarah could see the dark crystalline forms of Purist shock troops. She made her decision. Do it. As Vexlor's essence flowed into her neural implant, Sarah felt her consciousness expand. Meridian combat algorithms merged with human instincts, creating something that had never existed before: a hybrid warrior with the strengths of both species. The door exploded inward as Sarah's world transformed into crystalline clarity. She could see the quantum patterns of reality itself, could predict her opponent's movements before they made them. The battle that followed would become legend in both human and meridian space, a lone human moving with impossible grace, wielding both Earth technology and meridian energy manipulation against the Purist elite. But even as she fought, Sarah knew this was just the beginning. The child's existence proved something the Purists would kill to keep secret, that the future of both species lay not in separation, but in union. And somewhere in the chaos of her transformed consciousness, Sarah finally understood why Lazara had chosen her. She wasn't just a diplomat anymore. She was the bridge between two species, the guardian of a future that would either unite them or destroy them all. The real war was just beginning. Quantum bonds. Sarah's reflection in the shuttle's viewport was no longer entirely human. Crystalline patterns shifted beneath her skin, catching starlight in impossible ways. The hybrid child slept in a modified stasis pod behind her, while Vexilor interfaced with the ship's systems, their crystalline form pulsing with data streams. The transformation is progressing faster than anticipated, Vexilor observed. Your neural architecture is remarkably adaptive. Lieutenant Park kept his distance, watching her with a mixture of awe and concern. The battle at the mining colony had changed everything, especially his commanding officer. The next coordinates, Sarah said, her voice carrying harmonic undertones. They're in the Ophiuchi sector. Purist stronghold, Park warned. After what happened at New Ares, they'll be expecting us. Sarah accessed her expanded consciousness, where human intuition merged with meridian quantum awareness. The data core's information flowed through her mind like light through a prism, revealing new patterns. That's why we have to go, she said. The facility there, it's not just another safe house. It's where it all began. Vexilor's form shifted in recognition. The Genesis Laboratory, where we first discovered the compatibility between our species. The shuttle's quantum drive hummed as they plotted the jump coordinates. Sarah felt each calculation as if they were extensions of her own thoughts. The merger of human and meridian technology was becoming more natural with each passing hour. What aren't you telling us? Park asked Vexilor, about what really happened in that lab. The meridian scientist's form dimmed slightly. We discovered more than just biological compatibility. We found evidence that both our species were guided, engineered to eventually merge. Sarah's newly enhanced senses detected the subtle quantum fluctuations that indicated Vexilor's distress. By whom? We called them the Architects, an ancient species that seeded both Earth and Meridia with complementary genetic markers. They left messages, encoded in our very DNA, meant to be decoded only when our species achieved the right level of technological advancement. The shuttle's proximity alerts blared. 3 purist vessels emerged from hyperspace, their dark crystalline forms distorting the fabric of space itself. They're using quantum torpedoes, Park reported, targeting our drive systems. Sarah stood, feeling power surge through her hybrid form. Get us to the laboratory. I'll handle them. She moved to the shuttle's defensive systems, but instead of using the conventional controls, she interfaced directly with the quantum matrices. Her consciousness expanded into the space between spaces, where reality itself was malleable. The purest ships fired, their weapons designed to shatter both matter and space-time. But Sarah was no longer bound by conventional physics. She reached out with her transformed mind and caught the quantum torpedoes in fields of possibility, redirecting their energy. Impossible, Park whispered as the torpedoes curved around their shuttle, striking one of the purest vessels instead. No, Sarah said, her voice resonating with new understanding. Inevitable. As they fought their way toward the laboratory, Sarah began to understand why the purists were so afraid. This wasn't just about racial purity, it was about control. The merger of human and meridian would create something beyond their power to manipulate. The battle intensified as more purist ships arrived. Sarah danced through quantum possibilities, each movement guided by the combined instincts of 2 species. But even as she fought, new memories surfaced, not just Lysara's, but older ones, encoded in the very structure of her transformed DNA. She saw vast machines seeding young worlds, ancient beings of light and crystal watching as life evolved, waiting for the day their children would reunite. The architects hadn't just guided their evolution, they had created both species as 2 halves of a greater whole. The laboratory, Vexilor announced as they broke through the purist blockade. It still stands. Through the viewport, Sarah saw a structure that defied conventional geometry. A massive complex of crystalline spires and organic curves built into the surface of a rogue planet. But something was wrong. The quantum signatures were chaotic, distorted. They're already here, she realized. The purists, they're trying to destroy the evidence. As their shuttle approached the landing bay, Sarah felt a presence in her transformed mind, a vast consciousness reaching out across space and time. The children return, it whispered in a language older than worlds. But are they ready for the truth? Sarah looked at her crystalline-laced hands, at the sleeping hybrid child, at the merging of technologies in their small shuttle. Ready or not, she said, we're here. The laboratory's ancient doors opened, revealing corridors that pulsed with living light. Somewhere inside were answers that would change both civilizations forever, if they could reach them before the purists destroyed everything. Sarah led her small team forward, into the heart of a mystery billions of years in the making. The next few hours would determine not just the fate of two species, but the success or failure of a plan set in motion when Earth was young and Meridia was still cooling from its stellar forge. The true architects of their destiny were waiting. Ancient wisdom. The Genesis Laboratory's corridors pulsed with living light, each step revealing new patterns in the quantum architecture. Sarah led her team deeper, her transformed consciousness reading the facility's biocrystalline matrices like ancient text. The purists are in the central chamber, she said, sensing their dark quantum signatures. They're trying to access the core archives. Vexler's form rippled with concern. The genetic templates. If they destroy those, all evidence of our shared origins vanishes, Sarah finished. The hybrid child in Park's arms stirred, responding to the facility's energy. They reached a vast circular chamber where reality itself seemed to bend. At its center, a column of pure quantum data stretched from floor to ceiling, containing the accumulated knowledge of the architects. Purist forces had surrounded the column, their dark crystalline forms attempting to corrupt its structure. Their leader, a massive figure of obsidian crystal, turned toward Sarah's group. The abomination returns. It spoke in frequencies that made reality shiver. You prove our point, human. Look how our pure form has been corrupted by your flesh. Sarah stepped forward, feeling the power of two species flowing through her transformed body. You're wrong, Nexus Commander. This isn't corruption, it's completion. She reached out with her hybrid consciousness, connecting to the quantum archive. Ancient knowledge flooded her mind. Images of the architects, beings of pure energy who had seen the limits of static evolution. They created us both. Sarah projected the images for all to see. Humanity's adaptability, creativity, our drive to explore, the Meridian's quantum mastery, your connection to the fundamental forces of reality. Two sides of the same design. Lies, the purest commander snarled, launching a wave of dark energy. Sarah caught the attack with fields of probability, her human intuition merging with Meridian quantum manipulation in ways the purists couldn't match. The battle that followed transcended conventional physics, reality itself bending as two visions of the future clashed. But even as she fought, Sarah interfaced deeper with the archive, understanding at last the true scope of the architect's plan. The hybrid child wasn't just a symbol of unity. She was a key, encoded with patterns that could awaken similar potential in others. You fear change, Sarah addressed the purists as she deflected their attacks. But change is what both our species do best. The architects knew that evolution demands adaptation, combination, growth. The quantum archive pulsed, responding to her presence and the child. Ancient machinery hummed to life beneath the facility's surface. What's happening? Park asked, supporting the now glowing hybrid child. Vexler's form brightened in recognition. The Genesis protocols. They're activating. The purist commander realized too late what was occurring. No, the purity must be preserved. But Sarah had already interfaced with the ancient systems. The architect's final message played through the quantum matrices, meant for this exact moment. To our children, both crystalline and flesh, you were created incomplete, each species holding half of what you could become. Apart, you are bound by your limitations. Together, you transcend them. This facility contains not just your history, but your future, the tools to guide your merger, to become what we hoped you would be. The choice to use them is yours. The hybrid child lifted her small hands, quantum energy dancing between her fingers. Around them, the facility's systems offered paths of transformation, ways for humans and Meridians to choose unity without losing their essential selves. This is what you feared, Sarah told the purists. Not contamination, but transcendence. The power to choose our own evolution. The purist commander raised his weapons. Then we choose extinction first. The battle for the Genesis laboratory became a battle for the future itself. Sarah, transformed by both science and ancient wisdom, stood between two paths, one leading to separation and stagnation, the other toward a unity that could reshape two civilizations. And as quantum fire filled the chamber, she realized that the architects had left one final truth. The power to change wasn't just in their genetics or their technology. It was in the choice itself, the human drive to explore matched with the Meridian wisdom to understand the consequences. The future would be forged in the next few moments, written in quantum fire and hybrid DNA. The Genesis laboratory held the tools, but the will to use them would come from those who fought beneath its ancient light. Sarah Chen, no longer fully human but not quite Meridian, prepared to make that choice for both her peoples. The architects had started their work billions of years ago. It was time to finish it. Transcendence. Quantum fire cascaded through the Genesis laboratory as Sarah faced the purist commander. The hybrid child's presence had activated ancient protocols, transforming the facility into something both wondrous and terrifying. The Genesis chamber is powering up, Vexilor announced, their crystalline form resonating with the facility's energies. The architect's final gift is awakening. The purist forces pressed their attack, dark energy weapons attempting to corrupt the laboratory's quantum matrices. But Sarah moved with impossible grace, her hybrid form channeling powers that neither human nor Meridian alone could wield. "You can't stop evolution," she told the purist commander as she deflected another assault. The architects knew that isolation leads to stagnation. That's why they created us to be compatible. Our purity is our strength. The commander's obsidian form pulsed with rage. We will not be deluded by lesser beings. The hybrid child suddenly spoke, her voice carrying harmonics that made reality shiver. "You're afraid," she said, looking directly at the purist leader. "I can feel it. You're afraid because you can sense the truth. You're incomplete." The chamber's walls began to shift, revealing massive DNA helices interwoven with crystalline structures. The architect's machinery hummed to life, responding to the presence of successfully merged human and Meridian genetics. Lieutenant Park, monitoring the facility's systems through his modified scanner, called out, "Multiple quantum signatures approaching. More purist chips entering the system." Sarah accessed the laboratory's defense grid through her hybrid consciousness. Ancient weapons platforms, dormant for millennia, powered up under her command. But even as she prepared for battle, she understood that victory wouldn't come through force alone. "Show them," she told the child. "Show them what we can become." The hybrid girl stepped forward, her small form glowing with combined human and Meridian energy. The architect's machines responded, projecting images of possible futures, worlds where both species had merged successfully, achieving heights neither could reach alone. "We've detected your hybridization experiments," the purist commander snarled. "The abominations you've created in secret. Not experiments," Vexilor corrected. "Natural occurrences. Despite your efforts at segregation, our species have been gradually merging for decades. The compatibility is too perfect to resist, just as the architects intended." Sarah felt the truth of it in her transformed DNA. The architects hadn't just made their species compatible, they'd made the merger inevitable. Each contact between humans and Meridians had accelerated the process. The Genesis chamber pulsed with increasing power as more hybrid signatures registered throughout the facility. Hidden partitions opened, revealing stasis pods containing others like the child, natural hybrids found and protected by those who understood the truth. "You're not just fighting us," Sarah told the purists. "You're fighting the future itself." The commander raised his weapons. "Then we will unmake that future." The battle that followed transcended ordinary combat. Sarah and the hybrids moved in quantum synchronization, their combined abilities exceeding anything the purists had prepared for. But even as they fought, the Genesis protocols continued their work. Waves of transformation energy pulsed through the chamber, offering painless, controlled evolution to any who would accept it. Sarah felt the changes deepening in her own form, unlocking abilities that the architects had seeded in both species' DNA eons ago. The hybridization can't be stopped, Vexlor announced as more stasis pods opened. It's written into our genetic code. The only choice is whether to embrace it or fight it. The purist commander, seeing his forces falter, made one final, desperate attack, targeting the Genesis chamber's core with enough dark energy to trigger a quantum cascade. If he couldn't preserve purity, he would destroy everything. But Sarah was ready. As the dark energy beam lanced toward the core, she stepped into its path. Her hybrid form didn't just block the attack. It absorbed it, redirected it, transformed it. "This is what the architects knew we could become," she said, her voice carrying echoes of ancient wisdom. "Not just survivors, but transformers. Not just adapted, but adapting." The Genesis chamber reached full power, its energy washing over all present. In that moment, each being, human, meridian, and hybrid, saw the truth that the architects had encoded in their very existence. Evolution wasn't about preserving the past, but embracing the future. The choice they faced wasn't between purity and contamination, but between stagnation and growth. And as the chamber's light filled the facility, that choice became clear to all who witnessed it. The future had arrived. The only question was who would be brave enough to step into it. New dawn. The Genesis chamber's light faded, revealing a transformed reality. Where the purist commander had stood, a figure of shifting crystal and organic matter remained, their obsidian surface now threaded with living tissue. Sarah watched as understanding dawned in their quantum consciousness. What have you done to me?" The commander's voice carried new harmonics, human emotion bleeding through meridian resonance. "We didn't do anything," Sarah replied. "The architect's machines only activated what was already there. The potential for change exists in all of us." Throughout the chamber, purist soldiers experienced their own transformations. Some fought it, their forms crackling with resistant energy. Others surrendered to the change, their dark crystalline structures softening into hybrid matrices. The hybrid child approached the commander, her small hand extended. "You can feel it now, can't you?" The completion. Outside the facility, the space battle had frozen as the Genesis protocols reached the purist fleet. Ship after ship registered quantum changes in their crews' signatures. The war of purity was ending not with destruction, but with transcendence. Lieutenant Park checked his modified scanners. The quantum wave is spreading. It's affecting every human and meridian in the system. The changes aren't forced. Vexlor observed, their own form shifting subtly. The architects built in choice. But once experienced, few reject it. Sarah accessed the Genesis chamber's archives, understanding at last the full scope of the architect's plan. They hadn't just seeded compatible DNA. They'd created a quantum resonance between species that would gradually strengthen until merger became inevitable. The purist movement, she realized, it was the last gasp of resistance against natural evolution. That's why it arose now, when the hybridization was reaching critical mass. The transformed commander lowered their weapons. "We thought we were preserving our species, but we were fighting our own completion." Through her expanded consciousness, Sarah sensed similar scenes playing out across human and meridian space. The Genesis protocols had activated dormant machinery on countless worlds, offering the same choice to all. "Earth Command is reporting massive quantum signature changes," Park announced. "They're requesting explanation and guidance." Sarah stepped onto the chamber's central platform, interfacing with the ancient communication arrays. Her hybrid form served as a living example of what humanity and the Meridians could become. People of Earth and Meridia, she broadcast across quantum channels that reached both civilizations. The barriers between us were artificial. We were created to become something greater than the sum of our parts. The architects seeded our worlds billions of years ago, knowing that one day we would face this choice, evolution or stagnation. She gestured to the hybrid child and the transformed purists. This is not the end of either species, but the fulfillment of both. Each of us carries the potential for transformation. Each of us can choose to remain as we are or step into a future where the strengths of both species combine. The Genesis chamber hummed with power as similar facilities activated across the galaxy. The architects had planned well, ensuring their children would have guidance when this moment came. In the days that followed, both civilizations grappled with their new reality. Some chose to remain in their original forms, which the hybrid community accepted without judgment. Most embraced the change, experiencing the completion that the architects had designed them for. The purist movement dissolved as its members either accepted transformation or retreated to isolated colonies. The war ended not with victors and vanquished, but with understanding. Sarah Chen, once a simple diplomatic officer, became a bridge between past and future. Her transformation had shown the way, but each individual's journey would be unique. The hybrid child, whose existence had helped trigger these events, grew to become a leader in the new unified civilization. She embodied what the architects had envisioned, a being who carried the best of both species within her. As Sarah stood in the Genesis chamber one last time, watching ships of hybrid design sail between Earth and Meridia, she reflected on the price of trust. It had cost her her original form, but gained her something greater: the chance to be part of humanity's next great leap forward. The architects were long gone, but their legacy lived on in every transformed cell and quantum pattern of their children. They had trusted that when the moment came, their creations would choose wisdom over fear, unity over division. In the end, that trust had been well placed. The future belonged to those who dared to change, and change had only just begun.